In this video, we're going to talk about methods, in particular static methods that we can call whenever we need, and how they are the same type of methods we're going to put in classes, but in this case, we're going to use them just as standalone utility procedures or functions. When it comes to methods, I want to just kind of review some basics and then show you what methods look like in their normal use, not in a class definition in Java. So remember, methods come in two flavors: procedures or functions. Now, in the good object-oriented programming languages like Java, C#, even C++, it's important to understand that methods are part of classes and the functionality thereof, and we're going to talk about those in the next few videos. But a method in its purest form is really nothing more than a named block of code. So it's any code that we give a name and put inside a set of curly braces that's going to run. Now, some of the time we just do stuff. We just call that name block of code and it executes, and that's known as a procedure. Other times we want to return the values from that and get a result, and that's called a function. So we're going to need a variable to store the value that we get back when we call the function. So a function call is typically going to be on the right-hand side of an assignment operator, or it's going to be in something where it can be used, like a print statement, where the value comes back and is then used in the print statement. Okay? Procedure, we just call it on the line as a command. It's like, go do this. Okay? Now, if you look at main itself, okay, main is technically a procedure. Now, the dirty little secret is our application class does return a value to the operating system, and we'll probably get into that with some string arguments in a later video. But for now, because this course is basically IDE agnostic, we're going to just understand that the main entry point for your program is public and it is static, which means I do not need to create an instance of this outer class main. I can just call main and it will run. Okay? So if I want to create other utility functions, if you will, I can create them and call them. As long as they're static, I don't have to create the class. I don't have to instantiate the class that they're in and bring everything else along with it. I can just call that particular function. For example, the math library for Java itself. I don't have to say my math equals a new math to get, the square root function. I can just import math and use the square root function because it is defined as static. I can call it from anywhere. Okay? So we're going to talk about how to do that by showing you how to build two particular methods in our main class. Now, a lot of times what you're going to do as a professional coder is you're going to build a class called utility or util, and you're going to put a bunch of static methods in that you're going to use over and over and over again. You may end up with hundreds of methods that you can use, and you'll just call your own utility library when you need them. Okay? But we're going to just put them in main for now to keep this tight. They're not going to be in main. Remember, main is our main method that's our execution point, and we're going to call them from here. But let's go ahead and build a couple. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say public static void. So this is, I can tell you right now, this is going to be a procedure, and we're going to call it print greeting. And we're going to say that we are going to supply it a name, a string that is of type name. Okay? So we've now created it, and by the way, this is the signature of that method. Now I'm not going to do anything in it yet because I'm going to show you the other one we're going to do, which is a public static double. So this is going to return a value that is of type double, and we're going to call it calculate average And we're going to say you're going to give it a double X and a double Y. And I'm going to stub it out. So now it's complaining because I'm not returning a value. Okay? So let's go ahead and finish this one because it's going to be easy. I'm going to say return X plus Y divided by 2. That's the average. I'm going to return it. Now I could create a variable that says, average equals X plus Y divided by 2, return average. But I don't really need to. I could just return X plus Y divided by 2. Okay? So when I give it X or Y, it's going to return the average. Now up here, I'm going to need some print statements. So let's do this. Let's do about 4 of these. And in them, I'm going to put, let's do something cheesy like welcome to our program. All right, and then we'll say, well, let's give it an underline. That's pretty. And then let's go with a blank line, and then let's just say, I was passed the value of plus name. Okay, so it's going to take that parameter and dump it right there. All right, and so if I run this, I should see absolutely nothing, which I see absolutely nothing because I just ran it. Okay, because I haven't called these methods. All right, I've defined it. I can call print grading and it'll do this. I can call calculate average and it'll do this. I haven't done that yet. Okay, so let's start with no, let's start with just calling it print greeting Sam. Oops, let's put that outside the parentheses. All right. Now notice it italicized and colorized it because it understands that print greeting is a method I can just call. And because it's not returning a value, it's returning void, right? It's a procedure. In Java, void means you're not getting anything back. There's nothing to return. So it's a procedure. So print greeting, I should see this with Sam in it. Let's run it. And there it is. I was passed the value of Sam. Okay? Now let's go ahead and print a blank line. And then let's say double answer equals calculate average. And we're going to pass it 12 and 20. Okay? Here again, I'm storing the value, but I'm not really using this variable. But this is a call to a function on the right-hand side of the assignment value, the assignment operator, to put the value that this returns in here. Okay? So now I can print out the answer and I should get it. So let's just put in another print line. And I'm going to call, actually let me print line answer. So we'll print the answer out as well. And the other thing I want to show you is that I can also print the result. I can put the result of the formula in a print statement. Okay? So I should see the average of 12 and 20 printed here, And then a couple lines down, I should see this statement. So let's see what I get. All right, 16 is the average of 12 and 20. And the average of 112.45 and 321.67 is 217.06. So you'll notice that I have used the function on the right-hand side of an assignment operator. And then I could do something with that answer, like print it out. And I can also put it in a call where it's going to be used. Okay? What I can't do, well, I can do it, is I can just say calculate average of 100 and 200. And it looks great, right? And then I'm going to say program complete. Okay? Now when I run this, I get nothing from this line to here. This basically is my computer telling me I'm a knucklehead, because it went out and calculated the average of 150, but I never bothered to store it. So it said, well, you're a knucklehead, you didn't do anything with it, I'm moving on. And it got to this print statement. Okay? So if you don't do anything with the value of a function, you're wasting time, right? Why bother? Now I could certainly say double answer 2 equals, and then I could do a system out print line to print that out. And now we should see that I've used that value, and there we go. There's my value of 150. So don't forget to store the value of a function call if you have any intent to use it. And if you're bothering to call it, it means you need to use it for something. So it needs to be on the right-hand side of an assignment operator so that you're storing it as part of the state of the computer. So hopefully now you have a better idea of how methods can be used and how they're really just named blocks of code. And they're either procedures or functions, and if we make them static, we can call them directly wherever we are as long as we have access to them. So we can import them as an external library, we can put them in our own files outside of main, and use them to perform functions so that we only have to write that code one time. So that's it for methods, and in the next video, it's really going to be a two-part series on our very first, what some people call POCO, or plain old class objects. We're going to begin to look at what it means to do object-oriented coding and to use classes as a recipe for an object. And basically, we're going to see that classes can model the real world. And then when we instantiate them, we put them in memory, and they basically become a variable which is of the custom data type of the class name that we gave them. So that may sound a little confusing at first, but we'll get into it in the next video, and I'll see you on the other side.